Hello there, welcome to or welcome back to Dave's Techway, whichever way the situation may be. Like the title suggests, in today's video, I'm going to be helping you make up your mind or make the decision if it's time to upgrade that gaming computer or not, and how to go about finding out which component actually needs upgrading. You spend all this time learning how to put a gaming computer together and you're proud of your work. You push the power button, it boots up, and everything works good. Something to be proud of. I'm proud of building that gaming computer. You want to boast about it a little bit, you want to brag a little bit, so you put it up on Facebook, you put it up on Instagram, maybe Twitter, whatever your flavor is of social media. You start getting these comments, why you use this CPU? It's 2-3 years old. Why you use this GPU? It's 4 years old. You did your research, I'm hoping. You know what components you needed to get the performance that you was wanting, or what you was expecting at least. You spent the time and the energy to put this gaming computer together, and you're proud of it. You should be proud of it. Just because these guys is telling you you need to upgrade because something newer is out or whatever, don't listen to them. If you go in here and you're asking for upgrade advice, what should you upgrade or whatnot, maybe take into consideration. But these guys is hitting you because you're building a gaming computer with maybe used components or maybe components that's 2 or 3 years old, don't mean it's obsolete. It just means that it fits your needs. You build it to fit what you want, what you expect out of it. Pretty well, the only one that can tell you if it's time to upgrade or not is yourself. Does the computer that you are using meet your needs? Does it play the games you want at the frame rates that you want? Are you happy with maybe turning back the settings a little bit if you have to get the frame rate you want? Maybe it is time for an upgrade. Maybe you're looking to get into higher frap gaming or something, Maybe it is time for an upgrade. Maybe it's just to the point to where you got a little bit of extra money because of a holiday or because of a birthday or something, and you want to upgrade your system because you can, if you got a little bit of extra cash. That's a good thing too. You got a little bit of extra cash, or you decided that it is time for an upgrade, that you do need to upgrade your computer. How do you know what component you need to upgrade? Myself included. There's a lot of YouTubers who use this little program called MSI Afterburner. I will leave a link to it in the description below. Don't forget all that fun YouTube stuff on the way down to the description box. But it can help you decide on what part of your system that actually needs upgraded or not. I got a screenshot here of my latest benchmarking, and we're going to flip you over here and we're going to go through and I'm going to show you how this little program can help you figure out what part of your system you actually need to upgrade to perform the way you want it to. Alright guys, here we go. Here's the overlay on Borderlands 3 of my last benchmarking video. If you need to know how to get MSI downloaded and how to set it up to show you these numbers, there's a lot of tutorials on how to do this on YouTube. If I get enough requests, maybe I'll put out a video on how to set this up. Okay, when you first download the program, you get it set up. Up here at the very top, it's going to say GPU. Second one down is going to say CPU. Third one down is just going to say RAM. To be able to get to look something like this, you have to go in and make some changes to the program. Basically, you got your GPU at the top row, you got your CPU at the second row, and you got your RAM at the third row. This first number here, look at the GPU. Your first number right here is the temperature of what your GPU is running at. Your second set of numbers right here is the percentage usage of your GPU. Third one over here is how much RAM or VRAM your GPU is using, depending on if it's an APU or a GPU, dedicated GPU. And as you can see, it's in megabits. It's 2021 megabits. Especially in RAM, it's all gigabits anymore, because of the capacities. So when you're looking at these megabits, that first 2 right there, it says 2021. That first 2 right there, that means it's running 2 gigabytes of RAM. For every 1,000 megabits, it's 1 gigabyte. You're looking at 2 gigabytes of memory. Third number, your last number over here we're going to be looking at is 1900 megahertz. That is the speed that the GPU is running at. Okay, for your CPU down here on the second row, you have your temperatures and you have your percentage usage. How much of the CPU is actually being utilized. And down here on the third row, you got your RAM. It tells you how much of the RAM is being used. Now in this system, I had a 16 gigabyte kit of RAM. I had 2 gigs dedicated to just the VRAM, so I had 14 gigs of system memory. On Borderlands 3, as you can see, it was using 9,170 megabytes, which, like I explained, that's 9 gigabytes of RAM it was using to run this game. And this is why a lot of people says 8 gigs of RAM ain't enough to play games nowadays. And this is just kind of point that out. It is true in this case. Borderlands 3 is taking 9 gigs of RAM. But to know what part of your system is holding what back, you want to look at these two numbers right here, the percentages, and you want to look at your RAM usage. This is actually pretty good. You want your GPU to hit 90+% usage. You want your CPU to be fairly low. If your CPU gets up to using 60, 70, 80% usage, most likely you ain't going to be getting the max out of your GPU. That means your CPU is actually holding back your GPU. But in this case, that's about what you want to see. You want to see a high GPU usage with a lower CPU usage. You don't want your CPU usage to be getting up there real high to where this ain't hitting 90 percentile or better than 90% of usage. And depending on how much RAM you got in your system, like I explained, I had 14 gigs of usable RAM, and I'm only using 9 gigs of it. That's pretty good. That means there's plenty of RAM in the system, and it ain't holding back the CPU or the GPU. If you was running this and you only had 8 gigs of RAM in there, it would probably be pushing 6.5 gigs of RAM, which would probably be holding back that GPU. So you definitely want to make sure that you're running enough RAM in your system for the games that you want to play. That way your RAM ain't holding back your GPU or your CPU. Because if you don't have enough RAM or fast enough RAM, it will hold back your CPU and GPU. That's just something to keep in mind. And yes, even if you have dedicated graphics card in your system, that RAM can be holding back that GPU because it ain't producing what it needs to the GPU fast enough. It's holding back the CPU, so your CPU will be holding back your GPU. So you definitely need to make sure it's a pretty balanced system. But that's how you tell what part of your system you need to upgrade. You're really looking at the GPU, the CPU, and the RAM. That's really what's going to make the difference, especially when it comes to gameplay. You need to be doing this on a game that you play quite often to see what you need to be upgrading. If your CPU is hitting that high percentage, your GPU ain't, then your CPU is going to be holding back your GPU. You ain't going to be getting all the performance out of your GPU. Likewise with the RAM. If you don't have enough RAM in your system, it may be holding back that GPU or that CPU, and it ain't letting it get the max performance out of the other two components. That's how you can tell what component you need to upgrade to be able to get the performance out of your machine or get the max performance out of your GPU or iGPU. So I hope this helped you a little bit figure out if you need to upgrade your system or not. And like I said, don't listen to people on the internet that because it's 2 or 3 years old, 2 or 3 generations old means it's obsolete or it's useless. It's slow because it's old. It ain't always the case. That pretty well comes down to your decision and if you're happy with the performance you're getting out of your machine. Like I said, if you get a little bit of extra money, you want to upgrade your system to get better performance out of it, that's a great thing. And that's the way you can kind of tell what part of the system you need to upgrade to get the better performance out of your system. I hope this kind of helped you. Don't forget to go down and do all that fun YouTube stuff below. You all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.